Joining us now, Jeff Paterson, and Jeff is going to be busy here through the holiday season with the Canucks busy themselves around Christmas Day. Lots of games this year around the holiday season, and he joins us. He joins us now. How you doing, my friend? Merry Christmas.
Yeah, season's greetings to you and all of your listeners as well. Yeah, what a year. what a year.
It is quite a year. We're going to get to your top three Canucks stories here in a second. But first, Jeff, coming off the game against the Kraken, answer me the Bodog poll question we were running yesterday. Canucks or Kraken in this geographic rivalry? Who's closer to contention for you?
I think you'd have to say the Kraken, just based on some of the building blocks and the fact that they started from scratch. And I think there are a lot of teams in the National Hockey League that would love to be able to find that opportunity in their Christmas stocking just to, get out from under all their bad contracts and start anew. And so, sure, it's daunting to be an expansion franchise, but, the pieces are in place if you do it properly. And I know some people didn't love the way the Kraken went about the exercise, but they aren't burdened by a bunch of bad contracts. And so, now they can start to navigate their way, and it looks like they got it right with Matty Beniers. Certainly looks like an absolute building block kind of piece. And, Canuck fans don't want to hear that, but I would say that there is still so much heavy lifting to be done for the Canucks to get this moving in the right direction that, really they're just playing catch-up to what the Kraken are already putting in place.
Yeah, they have the depth there, Seattle. It's been a good story this year. All right, let's get after it, Jeff. Your top three Vancouver Canucks stories of 2022. Where are we starting?
Well, it was a difficult process just to whittle it down to three. But for me, I just don't think there was a bigger story this calendar year than JT Miller and his contract. And you think of the drama, you think of all of the discussion in this market, ultimately the decision and the dollar figure. And it just, to me, it goes right to the top of the list. Because they negotiated with a player coming off a 99-point season. He had all the power, all the leverage, and you just wondered. You worried that there was going to be a drop-off, towards the back end, and I think the hockey club accepted that fact. But, is he complacent? Is he comfortable just looking at, the first 30 games of this season? There are some red flags already, and that's unfortunate for him and for the hockey club. He's not the first guy that, signs on the dotted line. And I don't want to say he's putting his feet up and taking it easy, but he doesn't look nearly as motivated, as driven on a nightly basis as he did last year. So when you just think of all the arms and legs of the storyline like that one has and will have for years to come, and obviously the Bo Horvat angle to it, you do wonder if they hitched their wagon to the wrong horse in this race. But I just, for the life of me, as I kind of went through the exercise here, I couldn't come up with a bigger, more significant, meatier story for the Vancouver Canucks in this past 12-month period than JT
Is there any
Miller's
salvaging
contract.
that? Is there any salvaging that relationship? Any salvaging the player and the investment this team has made?
I hope so. I believe there's a better player there. We've seen a better player already. And this isn't a guy that's now pushing his mid-30s. Like, he will be at the end of this contract, but the idea was to get 5 good years out of JT Miller. The new deal hasn't even kicked in yet, guys. That's the biggest concern of all. And, of course, when the shoe drops with Bo Horvat, JT Miller is going to be a center again on this hockey club. And we've already seen examples this year where he wants to be a center. They've put him in the middle. And it hasn't gone particularly well. In fact, he started the season there, was on the ice for, the first 9 goals the Canucks gave up. And they had to move him to the wing to sort of save himself and save the hockey club. And so, again, I think there's a better player there. But it's going to take, him sort of digging down a little bit and recognizing the commitment that's been made. He said all the right things when the contract was signed about how much he wanted to be here and be a part of what they were putting together here. And yet, we've just seen too much of same old JT where he gets reckless with the puck, the blind passes through the middle of the ice, the turnovers, and the production hasn't been anywhere close to where it was last year, or really even in his first year after the trade. And so, I think there's some concerns. So I hope that there's more there, Blake. I think that there's certainly a better player than he's shown in the pre-Christmas portion of this schedule. But again, when you see his performance dip, you can't help but be a little bit worried about the long haul and the duration of the contract.
Silver medal position, Jeff, your number 2 Canucks story of 2022.
I think for me, it's the club's 0-5-2 start to this season. Now, we're talking about 2022 in its entirety, and of course, this started in October, so it only encompasses the last few months. But I don't know about you guys, but it just, the snowball effect of the 0-5-2 start, it so clearly showed us that talk is cheap. For all of the discussion at training camp about learning from last year's mistakes and the slow start and the need to get off to a better start, and anything short of the playoffs would be a disaster for the organization. And then they come out and blow all those leads, the multi-goal leads, make NHL history, infamous NHL history, and it takes them until Game 8 to get a victory. It brought jersey throwing back into vogue in this market because the home opener was part of that 7-game stretch where they couldn't get a win, the loss to the Buffalo Sabres. It put the coach on the hot seat right away, where we wondered about a lame duck coach and how that would impact the hockey club. Well, a couple of games into the season already, we're talking about Bruce Boudreau. Is he the right guy? Has he lost this team already? And so it was a disastrous start that they're still feeling the effects of now. And, it brought the president of hockey operations out with the guns ablazing yet again. And so it's just, self-inflicted drama, but it has had long sweeping effects on this hockey club that, I think they're still, they were playing catch up from day one. And here, as they roll into Christmas, they are still very much playing in that catch up mode.
Were they the architects of that? And on the ice, I guess in terms of quality of team, the answer is obviously yes. But were they the architects of that to some degree, in the sense that they didn't sign the captain, have a lame duck coach? Was this destined for failure because of the scenario, even more so than the quality of the team?
I'm not prepared to go that far, just because they had those multi-goal leads in all those games early on. Just defend a little bit better, get a save. Nobody could have seen Thatcher Demko was a big part of the 0-5-2 start as well. But it was there. They did enough good things to get those multi-goal leads out on the road. I'd recommend to the Canucks, if they wanted to listen, don't start the season with a 5 or 6 game road trip next year. Like they tried that last year. They tried it. I think some of that, you're putting yourself, sure, you want home games at the back end, but you also have to stay competitive for those home games to matter. And I think that was sort of a bit of folly on their part, to what degree they could arrange, ultimately the starts of their schedule and whether they could start at home or a long homestand. You always hear about teams wanting to go on the road and gel. Well, this team didn't gel particularly well. But yeah, to get out in front, opening night in Edmonton at a 3-0 lead, and we raved about the first 20 minutes and, the way they took the play to the Edmonton Oilers, and then the bottom fell out there, and of course special teams is a big part of it. So some of it I think you could have seen coming, but they were better. And dare I say, they actually deserved a little bit better, too, in those 7 games. I think there was a win or two to be had, rather than going winless in their first 7. But you are what your record says you are. You are what the score clock says you are at the end of the night, most nights. And they weren't good enough. And so it's hard to feel sorry for them. But for me, it was just more this notion of, to a man, they said that they would not go down the same road as last year, that they learned that, it's too hard, that games in October mean as much as games in April. It's the old cliche. And yet there they were, still looking for a first victory 7 games into the season. So to me, just a massive story that is, the cascading effect is still being felt today.
Indeed. Number 3, Jeff.
And this plays into the second one and to Blake's question as well. The fact that this organization did nothing to upgrade its defense, really, in the calendar year of 2022. Unforgivable, quite frankly. Now, some would say, hey, wait a sec. They brought in Travis Dermott and they brought in, Riley Stillman and Ethan Bear. I would repeat, they did nothing to upgrade their defense core significantly in calendar year 2022. Ethan Bear looks like he can be a part of what they've got here moving forward. Unfortunate situation for Travis Dermott with the injury that's kept him out for so long here. And Riley Stillman is not the answer. Not that anybody thought he was going to be, but I think half a season in, there's still a great debate about whether, he's a full-time National Hockey Leaguer at all. And then, of course, the other part of that is those are the 3 newcomers to a group that wasn't good enough last year. Everybody knew it. Everybody in hockey knew it. Heading into the offseason, it had to be addressed. Part of a JT Miller trade was supposed to be to address that back end. That didn't happen, obviously. And so to run out 3 veterans, getting older by the day, and OEL and Tyler Myers and Luke Shen, on a nightly basis, and it does kind of feel like the speed of the game is catching up to all of those guys, but they continue to be big parts of what the Canucks trot out there on a nightly basis on their defense core. So
I have to ask you then, if they'd gone, would it have been wrong for them to get a surefire veteran defenseman this summer? That's not a rebuild move. That's a get better now move versus now maybe liquidating a Horvat or a Besser to get a young right shot defenseman, or any defenseman really, who's probably not ready right now to step in and be an every night, or at least an elite every night guy.
Yeah, I think that there probably were ways to go and find a relatively cost-effective stopgap. They rolled the dice on a Dan DeKaiser, invited him to camp on a PTO. He wasn't the answer, but a guy like Calvin DeHaan got a PTO in Carolina, signed with the Hurricanes, and plays with them on a regular basis to the point that Ethan Bear was expendable. So, there were NHL defensemen out there on the market at a price point that wouldn't have hurt this club because they didn't have much flexibility in that regard anyhow. So, yeah, I think they missed the mark a little bit. Just bringing in even one more piece that could have solidified things just a little bit. Now, again, nobody was banking on the bottom falling out on Thatcher Demko before he got injured. And you do wonder if Thatcher Demko could have held up his end of the bargain. Might they have been able to preserve a few of those leads that they had early in the season? But, that's water under the bridge now. They are where they are. But just the fact that this management group in place for the duration of 2022, I know Patrick Alvin came on board in the first couple of weeks, but he's basically had 12 months on the job here. And for them to neglect the warning signs or foolishly think that there was more there on that defense than there has been, shame on the management group, because this team as a group just cannot defend, and we have seen it night after night after night, way too many times already this season.
Well, 1, 2, 3. Jeff, thank you for your time here today. Thank you for everything in 2022, my friend. Appreciate all the contributions to this show, and of course your stewardship of Rink Wide. Will be listening over the holidays. Thank you for that. Merry Christmas to the Patersons. We'll catch up in 2023.
Yeah, right back at you and to all the listeners. And it's been a year of growth for us, I think, as a group and a company. And so looking forward to bigger and better things in 2023. And just in terms of years of growth, I guess if there was an honorable mention on my list, guys, it would have been the rebirth of Elias Paterson as a star in the National Hockey League. I'll leave you guys with, that's a little good news story, I suppose, for the Vancouver Canucks, because there hasn't been enough of it, quite frankly, this year, but it's just been good and fun to watch Elias Pettersson getting back to doing the things that he did in those first couple of seasons in the National Hockey League.
Well said. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Happy holidays.